On the podcast this week, my man De Beer. You have the best name in all of, I wouldn't say sports, in all of anything, all of Wisconsin, all of the world. You're from South Africa. I don't know if they know how great your name is. I don't know if I know Wisconsin, like we're big into like beer. I don't know if everywhere else in the world is like that, but it's a fantastic name.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I'm happy to be back. Love this. Love your podcast, man.
Hey, I appreciate it. So, for a lot of listeners are probably new to my podcast. They might not have heard or watched when you were on before. So, tell me a little bit about yourself, because you played for the Packers. You did some stuff in the NFL.
Yeah. So, born and raised South African. Got over to the States when I was 19. So that was about 8 years ago now. 7 years ago now. Sorry. And I walked onto the football team at the University of Arizona. Came over on the track and field scholarships. I was a dual sport athlete. After 2 years on the scholarship, worked my butt off to get there. Started in my third year, later on in the season at guard first, and then moved back out to tackle my junior and senior year. And then undrafted free agent to the Buffalo Bills. I got cut after week 1 with them, and then Green Bay picked me up week 13. And I was with them all season and then off season, and unfortunately I got released after that.
So like you have like because I wanted to just get right into this thing because I know time is an issue, but like so you have an issue or like you have experience with like trying to make a team. So like with training camp, there's no preseason this year. There's no like a lot of things are cut off that benefit people who are trying to get on a team. Like how would that affect an undrafted player who's just trying to work his butt off to get on a team?
Honestly, I think that is one of the hardest things. But taking it prospectively, guys that practice well tend to play well. You don't get guys that practice well that don't play well. You know what I'm saying? You don't shine. You don't practice bad and then you shine in the game. That doesn't really happen. So to me, you have to take every single practice as if it's a game. You go out there in full pads a lot during camp because that's your time to hit. Now, when you walk into a locker room as a rookie, something that nobody ever tells you is there's about 40 guys in that roster who have a spot already before that first snap is done in practice. It's about 40 guys that have a spot. You have new guys that just signed big contracts. You have first, second, third, and fourth rounders tend to be on the roster automatically that year, and all those different kinds of things. So you got to reckon in there's about 40 guys that are guaranteed a roster spot at that time. You go into the last 13, everybody now all of a sudden, that 37 people that are fighting for that last spot tend to be a lot less, right?
Yeah.
So, you got 90, about 37 get cut, and to add to 53. So, it's a very small amount of guys that actually get to make it because you're not fighting against the guy that was a Pro Bowl player last year because he's going to have a spot.
Yeah.
It's kind of obvious at that point. So you're fighting against the guy who's the next guy and his backup, etc. So to me, it's extremely difficult to show yourself and practice all the time. But number one is always show good effort. Never put up bad effort on tape. Number two, don't make mistakes, assignments. There's no excuses for that. And number three, make sure you show up every single day. Have a good attitude and be attentive and learn and things like that. But more than anything, if you can't play ball, you ain't going to be around.
So, like, guys like for you, because you're on the offensive line, guys like David Bakhtiari, who are, like, the best of what they do. Do those guys, like, help you? Do those guys talk to you and say, maybe you try this? Or is it, like, when you're
Yeah, that was one of the coolest things for me in Green Bay was how much of a mentor, like, David and Brian were. A lot of times, it's hard to find that because a lot of guys who are insecure about their job and things like that won't come up to you and help you because they're afraid that you might take their spot. But a guy like David and Brian, they're some of the, I just admire them.
Yeah.
Since day one, I got there. I was watching the film before I even got there. But when I got there day one, I was like, man, I want to be just like these guys. That's who I want to be like, And so they would come up to me and tell me stuff, and I would just absorb everything that they tell me. And not just that, but I also would go up to them and say, hey, what are you watching? What did you think? If you saw, et cetera, et cetera. So they would help me out a lot, which was awesome. And that kind of mentorship really played a huge role in my life.
Yeah, because like I remember being at a game last year, front row. David Bakhtiari was like right there, and he grabbed a guy and he was showing him. I could tell he was showing him how to like do whatever he was trying to explain to
Yeah.
him. So like
Yeah.
I just got the perception of like David Bakhtiari, he's a leader. Like he's showing. I forget who he even grabbed, but he was just like they were just talking about, and they were doing a lot of that. I couldn't hear obviously, but he was
Yeah.
showing them. So he seems like he's a guy who would step in and try to show the young guys.
Yeah, no, he does, and it's amazing to see because I love it because it shows how passionate he is, not just about the game, but also the guys around him. That he actually cares about the people around him. So, no, I love it, and yeah, no, him and Brian are all those dudes. Corey is the same, Billy is the same, Lane's the same. It's just being part of that room. It was by far the best offensive line I was ever part of.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear because I love those guys, and yeah, I think that's what you should do. I think you should try to help the people who are trying to come up, and obviously they're stable in their job; they're not worried about all that.
Definitely.
But so let's with the virus and stuff going on, all right, and some players are opting out and they're choosing to, and I respect that, like people who choose to do what's best for them. So how do you feel about that? Like in the locker room, like do you think like the NBA has a bubble and they're like, I think that they're fairly safe. I think the NBA it's unique because it's smaller because
Yeah.
the teams are smaller, and with the NFL, like because you know what an NFL locker room is, you know what an NFL game takes. Is it possible to keep them safe? And would you play if you were in position?
Would I play? Yes, I would definitely play. What I would, it's the difficult part comes in once you have a family and kids. Are there some of your family members that have autoimmune or things that are more vulnerable to the virus where they could have bigger issues? Then you have to decide by yourself, is it worth playing? Because no amount of money can ever replace a life.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's something that has to come into consideration. There's also variables about guys' contracts, guaranteed money, et cetera. If the season gets cut short, that rolls over. I know you mentioned that earlier when we talked before.
Yeah.
So, those are all different kinds of things that come into account. But more than anything, if I could play, I would. But I would not hold it against somebody who decides to opt out if it's for the reason of their own safety as well as their family members around them. But social distancing in a contact sport, there's a reason the NBA has the bubble. They understand that you cannot have social distancing among basketball. It's impossible. So, even though they're taking protective measures, et cetera, nobody's allowed in or out for a very good reason. It's a fanless season in the stands, but at least they can get the TV done, right? So
Yeah.
now they're looking to the same thing with football is my best guess. If they're going to put anybody in the stands, my best guess is the season will get canceled sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So I think a bubble is a great idea, but it's not sustainable for the NFL where you need to house about 3, 4, 5,000 people for half a year. I mean, that's just outrageous.
Yeah, and a lot of people like I don't think that they'd want to like without their family and
Mm-mm.
I mean, and like you say, it's just not doable. Like there's these facilities ain't that big. Like
Oh, no. And then you need to constantly transport people. I mean, are the games going to be played all at one stadium? There's so many different
yeah,
issues that come up. There's just too many people to be able to do that.
yeah. So
So,
do you think that if they start an NFL season, do you think that it would finish? Because I've talked to a lot of people, like Tom Crabtree comes on my podcast a lot. He's a former player, and he does not believe that they'll be able to finish the season. Do you think that it's possible?
I mean, my best guess is there's probably like a 10% shot that the season would be completely done from start to finish.
Yeah.
I think the season will definitely kick off. Much like the XFL did, they pushed to every last second. They were one of the last leagues to cancel the season.
Yeah.
So my best guess is they're going to try really hard and they're going to try their best to make sure it goes through because what is the biggest driving factor behind sports? It's money.
Yeah.
By far, it's money. Owners don't want to lose money.
Oh
Those
yeah, so
32 guys that own the teams, they haven't had a single year where they had a bad business year. Not a single one of them. So why start now? So they're
yeah,
going to push before the season as hard as they can and keep it sustained as long as they can.
yeah. So like you mentioned the XFL, and The Rock actually just bought it, along with I want to say her name because Danny Garcia. So she's the first female to ever own a major sports league.
Yeah.
So I think that's awesome. First of all,
That blows my mind, but it's awesome. You know, you wouldn't think that if she owned a sports league, it would be football. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. And The Rock is just a winner. Like, he's a great businessman. Like, I'm sure she is too. I don't know a ton about her, but I think that, like, I don't know, the XFL coming back. Obviously, it won't be this year. They'll probably wait but I think it was horrible that the XFL went out like how it did, because I don't think that would have happened without the virus. The XFL, I think, was catching traction. I was watching it. A lot of people were watching it. Like,
yeah, I was playing the XFL, and I was St. Louis Battlehawks when that got canceled. Mind you, they had 50-some thousand tickets sold for game number 6. 50-some thousand tickets sold for game number 6 for a subdivision league, because that's the only football that's showing, which I think is awesome. Yeah. So, and here's the other thing. You say Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. The dude almost has 200 million people following him on Instagram. You think he'd have any kind of trouble promoting this?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, that is free advertising that he can just get out there. Like, hey, the XFL is kicking off. Make sure you go. Yeah. I mean, if 50 million people see the post, they'll be like, sure, why not? I mean,
and he's like because I follow him like on a lot of stuff, and he's a businessman. He's an actor. He's a very insanely good actor. Obviously, he was a wrestler. He's a football player who didn't reach where he wanted to reach, but like, he doesn't lose. Like, he doesn't stop. So like, he's gonna do everything he can to make this go, along with her, and I'm sure she's really good at what she does too. Like, I'm stoked, because I was stoked for XFL last year. I was watching, and I think a lot of people.
It was good football. It was entertaining.
It was like good product. Like, people were playing in it, but like, I was watching it, and like, it was good product. Like, it was a good, like, the NFL wasn't happening at the time, and like, it was like, this is good football. Like, there was crazy catches, there was crazy plays, great crazy defensive plays. They had a few different rule changes. And I think like with kickoffs and all that stuff, I don't know how they'll do it going forward, but like, it's a good product, and I think with this leadership, I think it'll kill it.
I think they did it right this time around versus back when they started in 2001. They had like 2 or 4 people running the ball.
Oh yeah, they had crazy stuff.
It was just really weird. You know what I mean? I think right now they did it much better. They keep the product. It's football. You know, you keep it football, you'll fill the stands, because it's the most watched sport in America right now. So you keep that going, and I think you're going to be on the right track to start out with. I think Vince McMahon did an incredible job promoting it. I mean, they outsold the AAF with tickets around week 1 already. So, I mean, they did a great job. So the resources were great, the food that they provided and everything for the players, I think they did top notch.
So, like, how was that, like, for you, like, when it ended? Like, you did they just come in and you were there when it ended, right? Like, they just said, done?
Yeah, I mean, we had practice. I think it was a Thursday afternoon. The Friday was supposed to be travel day, and you know, we came in for the team meeting that morning, and they told us everything got canceled. Please bring your iPad and chargers and whatever, and yeah, you give your stuff back. And then they gave us a few days to stay in the hotel, and then said, all right, you have 1 week or so, I think it was 5 days, something like that. They said they'll continue to pay salaries, but the salaries obviously ended up running dry when they filed for bankruptcy. So.
Yeah, that's rough. But moving on, yeah, that's a crazy situation. Hopefully it ends differently this time, and I think it will. But let's move on to the Packers draft. All right, so like I made a post the other day, like, Jordan Love, like, the hate he gets is just like insane to me, because
let me ask you why.
Yeah, because like, I was around when Brett Favre Like, I don't know how much. I'm sure you've heard Brett Favre being in the Lambeau Field, but like, I don't know how about about Packers history. But Brett Favre was like untouchable. Brett Favre in his day, which I love me some Brett Favre. I grew up on Brett Favre, but Aaron Rodgers got the same thing when he got drafted. I know people say don't compare him because I get it because Aaron Rodgers could have went number one because they were talking about him and Alex Smith going number one overall, and Jordan Love was a little bit different. But I think it's still the same thing. Is like people didn't want Aaron Rodgers drafted. A lot of people didn't want Aaron Rodgers drafted, but he did. And my thing is like whether you agree with it or not as a fan with Jordan Love being drafted. Like he was drafted, so I'm going to support him because I support every single player. Like, I'm a Packer fan, like through and through. Any player who plays for the Packers, I'm going to support. And Jordan Love, like, give him a chance as a fan. And like we don't know, like I trust the coaches. They know more than I do. Like, dude, when I watch football, I drink beer and like I don't know what's going. I mean, I know what's going on.
Throw, right?
I'm like, yo, I don't know why that happened. I just know that it happened. I'm not an expert. I'm not like an analyst trying to be. I'm not an expert in any way. I drink beer, eat pizza, and watch touchdowns.
Yeah, pretty much.
What do you think about like this, like with the draft, how it went down?
So here's what I'll start by saying is I don't like the media is a tool for communication and it gives players a voice. When players don't get a voice in their own things, that's when I start to dislike the media. Exactly. Let me give you an example. Jimmy Graham would not be in the locker room after practices because guess what happens after practices? Locker room interviews. Yeah. So he would not be in the locker room right after practices. He would wait for the media to leave, then he would come out wherever he was. And he says, I would not talk to those guys. I'm so surprised. I'm like, Jimmy, you're a super high-profile guy. How have you gotten away with this for the last few years? You know what I'm saying? Never an interview, never. And let me give you a prime example about what's going on right now. Back when Colin Kaepernick took a knee, we won't get into the whole topic. I just want to give an example. Back when Colin Kaepernick took a knee, everything that was a media shunned him, right? Everybody shunned him for taking a knee. They told him, get him out. He's disrespectful, whatever. But he had his cause, right? Now, people are shunning people the media is shunning people who don't take a knee, saying, you're not collective, you're not part of the group. And now they've all of a sudden switched their view.
Yeah.
All of a sudden. Don't tell me they changed their minds all of a sudden. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the media is just, they're after the biggest thing and what sells, right? Yeah. So that example is Aaron Rodgers. Why does the media dislike him so much? I was in the locker room with him. I liked him. I thought he was a great guy. I mean, he's super hard-ass sometimes, but he was a great teammate. That dude invites other players over to his house for Thanksgiving. Who else does that?
Yeah.
Great teammate. He would always be inclusive. He would make jokes with everybody. But the dude, he's a great dude. So why does the media hate him? Jordan Love has not played a single snap. Why does the media hate him? If you are a fan and you're reading what the media says to understand what's going on in the locker room, you are informed beyond what is the right thing. Because to me, if a player says something, that's something you could listen to as to what's really going on. Because other than that, the media forms opinion based on what? Everybody that's an expert of football is involved with football, not in the media. So the media tends to not be as they should be in terms of being informed and things like that. So, that's my stance on the media. I think they go wherever they want to go and, almost like trendsetters, like, why is that okay now? You know what I'm saying? So, for a guy like Jordan Love to receive so much hate just because he got drafted is just unrealistic. It's unreal.
No, I love everything that you just said because I've been saying it because the media, like certain people who I won't name because I've named them 100 times, but like they get their clicks, their views, their clicks, their hits on their websites and their Twitter accounts and all this based on hate. Like Aaron Rodgers if you hate on Aaron Rodgers, people will listen. If you hate on like even the Packers in general, like Devontae Adams, like 57 in the top 100, and they just kept talking about it. Like they did. I don't know if it's a Packers. If me and Crabtree have talked about it before, like is it Packers or is it just, I don't know, top profile players in general that if you hate them, same with Tom Brady. People love him or hate him, and they like to say this and that. But, like, I don't know, Aaron Rodgers seems like he's just a everyday punching bag. People love to hit him. Like that.
Oh, for no reason.
Yeah, and they always grab, like, he how many teammates you think Aaron Rodgers has had over the years? Like, thousands. Like,
Oh, yeah.
thousands upon thousands of teammates. Like, 3 of them have bad things to say, who they're all trying to get in the media. One of them is in the media. So, like that's what I'm saying, because I don't know Aaron Rodgers as a teammate because I can't play football. You know, I can't run up the steps without getting winded. But, like, everyone I've talked to or everyone I've heard talk about Aaron Rodgers says he's a good teammate. But, like, the 2 or 3 guys that have mentioned bad things, one of them is in the media on FS1, and the only time anyone listens to him talk is when he's talking about Aaron Rodgers. So, I wouldn't say I'm anti-media because, like, local media, like, I know a few guys who do, like, local Green Bay stuff. I think they're good, but
they do a great job. I'm not shunning everybody.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm not shunning the media in total, because, like I said, it gives players a voice. That's what makes social media platforms great. Is there is no middleman. You cut out that middleman, and it's direct between me to you. Yeah. There is no influence. Like, you cut out part of my story, and then you only highlight the bad part I said. It's like, explaining the bad part to get to here. You know what I mean? So they'll say, this player said that. Well, he was explaining that to.
Yeah, he said like 86 words. You used 24 of them.
Exactly.
Exactly that. Because there was a wide receiver that they play for the Packers, and Donald Driver. He said something.
I know him, yeah.
Yeah, and they twisted it to say, well, he said something about Aaron Rodgers. Like, well, he said a bunch of stuff, and you just cut out this little bit. So I don't think that's what they do. Like, they try to get players to, like, they want players to talk. Like, that's what they said. Like, remember Marshawn Lynch? And then, you know, I'm just here so I don't get fined and all that. They want them to talk. And then when they talk, they twist it and they crucify him and say, you said this, you meant that, and that's why they don't want to talk. So,
there's a reason nobody wants to talk to them, because all they do is misconstrue, mislead to create some kind of uproar, because that's what sells.
Yeah, it is what sells. No, but I think I covered it. I'm not sure how much time we have left, but hey, I really appreciate you joining me, and I'd like to have you come on again, like if the season gets going, hopefully, and talk some football, because I know that you have good insight. You know the game, you know the ins and outs, you know the NFL locker room, you know just the game in general more than I do. I don't know anything. I just have cool guests on, so I want to add you to that.
No, cool, man. Yeah, I'd be very happy to come back again. I'm a fan of your stuff, and I love all the videos you make. I think you're very funny. So no, I'd be happy to do it again.
Hey, I appreciate it. Hey, I'm gonna use that clip. You said I'm funny, so I'm gonna use that.
Yeah, run it, man. Run it.
Run
more
it.
Than welcome.
All right, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Matt.